It's the basic system.
Let's start. Ready? 3 and
Yeah.
2 and 1 and... Welcome to show 6 of the Fully Charged Show podcast.
In this episode, I like saying the word bobbins.
Oh, it's just bobbins, isn't it?
It is bobbins. Bobbins is actually a very good term for it.
Robert is amazed by the state-of-the-art rapid charger I found. And I just found a 3-pin plug on the wall.
Wow. Jonny is amazed with my latest find in Australia. I saw it was 4 generations mullet family.
No, 4-gen mullets. Before we head into the show, don't forget to leave us a 5-star rating and review on wherever you subscribe to this podcast.
And again, we'd like to thank Patreon supporters who help us create Fully Charged. If you would like to support our show directly, please take a look at the Patreon page. The links are in the show notes.
Follow us on the socials, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, those sorts of things. And why not tell your friends about us on the YouTubes? Okay, onward with the show. Hello and welcome to another Fully Charged podcast. It's fresh, it's just come out of the oven, it smells nice.
It does, it smells gorgeous.
I'm Jonny Smith and I'm here in England.
And I'm Robert Llewellyn and I'm here in Australia.
He's still on holiday, everybody. This is ridiculous.
Yes, just one long, massive holiday. I tell you, I have never worked so intensely for so long. I mean, we're trying to regulate it. We're doing 5 hours a day of intensive work, me and the missus.
Is that true?
Yeah, it's true. But to be fair, the rest of the time we're on the beach, sitting outside a pub, going for walks up in the rainforest, cruising about. So it's not that bad. I'm not complaining.
You got Chris Rea on the radio playing On the Beach by any chance?
Yeah. Now we yeah.
I love that tune. You do
come up with the best musical artists. That's a great one. But I tell you what we're just up the road from Chris Hemsworth's house. We didn't even know. We haven't seen him.
Oh, don't say
and
that.
Also,
Mrs. Smith will just melt if she hears that.
Chris is just up the road. He hangs out. He's because he wants to come on the show, but I've just been a bit snooty with him.
Well, so you should keep him, treat him mean.
And what's the other one? Matt Damon. Matt Damon was spotted in our local town only the other day, so he's hanging around. So they're all here.
Okay.
Especially because they knew I was here. They thought they'd hang out, see if they can get on Fully Charged.
He's the original Bourne identity, isn't he?
He is.
Which is still...
For me, there's no substitutes. He is Jason Bourne. Anyone else is just,
He's totally... Well, we have a connection because I live very near a town called Bourne. and you're near actual Matt Damon. So if we put those two things together, we could actually have Jason Bourne.
And I've met 2 people that I can remember very clearly who were called Jason. So that is kind of... That whole thing is connecting together now.
This is it's not even cryptic. It's
beyond that.
It's much clearer than that. It's much clearer. So, welcome to the podcast, everybody.
Yeah.
I hope you've enjoyed the previous ones. I presume you've subscribed via whatever platforms you can subscribe to this from.
All the multiple platforms, it's marvellous.
I won't mention them all.
I'll tell you another thing, because there was a great tweet I got today, which was... I've really been enjoying the podcast. It's a pity you've already sacked Jonny. That's because last week's episode was with Ketan Joshi when I just interviewed him, and I thought, that's amazing. You can jump to that conclusion that quickly. I think it was a joke, but So
we
that will explain.
We live in fast-moving, brutal employment times.
We do
we not? I've come back to do some voluntary work, everybody. I class this as a lost leader. I'm going to call this a lost leader.
Yeah, this is a lost leader. But I mean, just to explain, in case you were confused by that, then one of the sort of dream opportunities, because I also want you to take advantage of this, Jonny, when you meet some incredibly cool car designer. I mean, it's just something we should bear in mind, that if we get the chance to talk to someone, where if we videoed it, it would probably be quite dull, because it would just be 2 people sitting down talking. But if you got the time and the gap to say, would you do half an hour talk about what you do? Because that was really, I've had these 2 opportunities, one with Ketan recently, and then more just last weekend. I had brilliant, we'll put this out later on, with a guy called Giles Parkinson, who runs reneweconomy.com, which is a brilliant website about the economics of renewable energy, and he really knows his stuff. He's a ex-financial journalist from like proper newspapers, like big ones.
Oh wow,
big ones with lots of writing and not many pictures. Those sort of newspapers.
So there you go, everybody. I haven't been sacked.
No,
and we will have the occasional guest who isn't me.
Exactly.
On the Fully Charged podcast. So don't be afraid.
No, it's all good.
Robert promises me that I'm still being employed. So that's good.
Highly, highly, highly regarded and desperately. In fact, it's exactly the opposite. It's much more likely you're walking off towards some really high-paying job and I'm hanging on to one of your ankles with my teeth going, no! No! That's actually more accurate.
Robert, don't say things like that.
Okay.
Don't say things
I won't say things like that. But I think the first story we've got to cover, because my Twitter feed has been choked with this the last 24 hours, is the Toyota advertising the self-charging hybrid advertising campaign, because it's a really I find it really difficult one, because I've been a huge supporter of what Toyota did. Well, I had 3 of them. I bought 3 individual different, didn't have them all at the same time, 3 Prii over the last 15, 20 years, and they were all brilliant. They never went wrong. They were really reliable. They, all those things are true, and they're petrol cars that use less petrol. They definitely do.
They've long had variable valve timing on petrol stuff. They've They are really well, but
they're
a game changer.
Petrol cars.
Their hybrids were game changers.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They made
a crucial step.
They introduced the masses to hybridization, and they proved that it was reliable and nothing to worry about, and it was affordable. Yeah. But I think, as we've said in a previous podcast, they've kind of been left behind a little bit.
Yeah.
Whether they've rested on their laurels, I don't know. I don't know.
It's just a very spiky app, because the I don't know if you've seen the TV commercial, Johnny, because it's someone in I think an Auris hybrid, and they're driving past like a 1910 steam car and an old Model T and all in a desert. They always like to film those things in a desert, and and a horse and cart, and it's like, this is the next step in transportation. Perfectly legitimate.
Yeah.
But then they just throw in this one shot. It's 2 or 3 seconds of a guy standing, waiting next to an electric car that's plugged in.
Oh, really?
And it just does. And they don't need to do that, because we've got a self-charging hybrid. We don't have to plug ours in. But the only way it self-charges is because you've burnt petrol to make it move. That's the thing. So
I've seen the screen grabs of that particular moment. I actually haven't watched it. I've got the link. And I'm going to watch it after this show. Because it'd be rude to watch it now.
there's nothing wrong with that advert except that one shot, and it's such a kind of conscious dig and a poke at electric cars are stupid. Jeremy Clarkson was right. And just don't worry about it. Just carry on buying petrol. It's fine. That is the subtext of it, and you go, no, that stinks.
It's a very odd attitude by Toyota. And I said, I don't understand why the Prius isn't all plug-in, as standard now.
Yeah.
Because I know you can buy one. You have the option.
Yeah. No, I did. I had the original plug-in hybrid, and it really wasn't. That was not a successful car. In terms of its hybridization, it's exactly the same as all the others.
Yeah.
Except you could plug it in, but it gave you 10 miles of electric range, which kind of was almost irrelevant. If you drove it really carefully, I did get the highest MPG ever in a Prius in that car. I got about 102 miles to the gallon on one drive. But that was, and it was in high, so that was really good. It was in the summer. It was a long journey on motorways, and I think I did
47 miles an hour.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I really sort of hypermiled it just to see what it would be like. I think I never went above 57.
Wow.
Huge queue of trucks behind me, furious.
It's so Toyota. Can we just look? We've got a lot of respect for you. Can you just stop it? Stop being silly with the whole look at plugins. What a waste of time and effort that is. You don't need to.
And also we know Toyota are developing all electric cars and they're investing in batteries. So it's kind of weird. I don't know how widespread it is. Apparently there are similar adverts in Europe. The other thing I heard was that Mitsubishi are doing the same thing. So on Catalunya Radio, and boy, have I tried to Google this and find out, but I can't find anything about it that I can understand. But on Catalunya Radio in Spain, Mitsubishi are advertising the Outlander plug-in hybrid electric vehicle as a zero-emissions electric vehicle.
Oh, come on.
Which is like, you go, that is, because
No.
it's in some ways, though, it's less deceptive than self-charging hybrid, because you can drive 30 miles in an Outlander just about without using any petrol. So,
yes.
You could argue that, but it's still...
It's a shame. It's a shame because, again, like it isn't zero emissions. I mean, it's the same as my Chevy Volt. It's that's a range extender. It's similar principle. It still has an onboard fossil fuel piston engine to do the full range that the manufacturer says.
Yeah.
It's just bobbins, isn't it?
It is bobbins. Bobbins is actually a very good term for it. A load of old bobbins.
I think it's this next story really took me by surprise when it was revealed last week.
The Amazon one.
Yes, yeah. Amazon investing $700 million in Rivian.
Yeah.
Now, on the one hand, it surprises me because I was just surprised that a name like Amazon had grabbed Rivian. Yeah. On the other hand, I wasn't surprised because I thought you think about the interest and the column inches that Rivian have got recently.
God, phenomenal. Yeah,
it's been huge. So Amazon are just looking at new ways to invest, and I suppose they've been very wise. They've gone, well, these guys know what they're doing, and
they've certainly got a lot of money. Amazon have, but also, I think one of the other things that they'll be pushing for rapidly is particularly like electric delivery systems, electric vehicles that deliver parcels.
Totally,
that's going to be a big thing for them, and that is, you're investing in a clearly an absolute cutting edge, state of the art electric vehicle company that no one else has got their hooks into yet. So they can have a sort of an influence. They'll use, but I would imagine that's got a lot to do with it.
They could use the skateboard platform, could they not, to make their own bespoke bodied, like you say, electric little trucky thing. Yeah, which would be fantastic.
But one of the lovely terms I read about that was that Rivian has now achieved unicorn status, and I had to Google because I thought, what's unicorn status? And a unicorn is a privately held startup company valued at over $1 billion. So it was a term coined in 2013 by venture capitalist Eileen Lee, choosing the mythical animal to represent the statistical rarity of such successful ventures. So it basically puts them over $1 billion value.
Crumbs.
Which once you're there, you move out of startup. Like, you might disappear, you might collapse, you might go away. Yeah. You become a sort of valid functioning company because you've got that kind of muscle behind you.
You've sort of become a rock star before you've released a single.
I know, because in
a way,
it is, isn't it? It is like that. Yeah.
Which is a very rare thing to happen.
Yeah,
it's exciting, but very, very odd. So they are investing heavily in Rivian. Rivian has become a unicorn.
Yeah.
I don't like the term unicorn because they don't exist.
Exactly. That's slightly.
So it just makes me think that nothing exists. But I think
yes. Well, obviously for the venture capitalist Eileen Lee, the statistical rarity. It doesn't exist. A unicorn is just statistically very rare.
Oh, okay. Well, I think we need to have a word with Eileen on that one.
Yes.
Just kindly reminder of actually what a unicorn is.
Yeah.
It's a fantasy creature, Eileen. Just so you know, Robert isn't a robot. Just so Eileen knows that.
I have to remind myself of that sometimes. Yeah, I forget. But I wish we should always put these stories, because this is a story from Forbes, although it's actually been widely reported across the blogosphere, because there was originally rumours that General Motors and Amazon were putting money in, and I think General Motors are still very interested, but they haven't actually coughed up yet. So it's definitely. But you imagine for what's his name, Jeff Bezos. We think 700 million. I mean, that is literally like you or me investing 70p in a startup.
I suppose it is. It's not even an important piece of paper to sign, particularly.
No, they probably turn over $700 million a minute. The company is such a huge company now. They've got
it is scary. I just hope it doesn't bastardise the Rivian brand before it's had chance to kind of.
I think it would be. I don't think it will, because it would be not. It's not going to be in Amazon's interest for them to suddenly bring out a really rubbish pickup with 5 miles of range.
No. All we want to do now is actually see Rivians, don't we? It was like that's what that's all about. And Ford F-150s, if Ford really do bring that thing to the party.
And I mean, it is that thing where I'm not in the United States, I'm in Australia, but the prevalence or the popularity of pickups here is extraordinary. I mean, it's the normal car. You know, there's one or two weirdos that have little hatchbacks, but certainly every other bloke is driving around in a pickup, and they're generally Toyotas.
It's culture.
They're utes.
It's a cultural thing. Yeah, a lot of first cars in Australia and the US historically have been pickups because they were cheaper to buy and cheaper to insure. But over here, we just don't have that culture. I think that's why we find it fascinating.
But I mean, you can chuck your shopping and a load of stuff in the back here, and it's doubtful it's going to get drenched in rain.
Yes.
I mean, it does happen. We're hoping that, because that was one of the things the guy I spoke to the other day, the ex-financial journalist, about their rainfall. So, I mean, you'll hear it when he speaks, but he has a rainfall monitor at his house, which is in the, for those wishing to work out where this is, it's in the Byron Bay hinterland near Mullumbimby. Really good names.
Mullumbimby?
And this time last year, between Christmas and now, he had 160 centimetres of rain that that his rain monitor showed him. And this year, in the same period, he's had 3 centimetres.
You're joking.
That is quite a big change. I mean, it is dry. I'm not going to use the Australian term to describe how dry things are, because I know some really, really obscene.
It doesn't, as long as it doesn't involve witches and other.
It might have been.
Is it involving witches?
No, the other end of the spectrum, nuns. But we'll move on.
Right, okay. So nevertheless,
it's very dry.
Arid.
It's very dry, and we're not in an arid. This is a rainforesty, really green, lots of trees, lots of grass. It's not a dry. It's not like desert Australia. This is really the kind of coastal strip, and they've just not had any rain since forever. We've had some drizzle since we've been here, and I was all depressed because it looked grey and drizzly, and then about 2 minutes later, it was stinking hot again.
So no sooner had you dusted off the Morrissey albums, and suddenly you were like, oh, hang on a minute, the sun's come back out.
I got a couple of long goth coats out of the cupboard, but I couldn't. It was just too hot to wear them.
Everybody needs those. Yeah, everybody needs those. So I was going to say, before we go on to the next thing, you've probably read about it this morning over there in Australia, but it's not exactly fully charge centric, but Honda announcing that they're closing their entire factory in Swindon.
At Swindon, it's heartbreaking. Yeah, I know the factory.
It is. Yeah. It's a real shocker. It's really a real shame.
Because I'd heard rumours about Vauxhall and possibly Nissan doing things, but I'd not heard anything about Honda. So I just hadn't heard that. That's very local to me. It's really, what is that, 40 miles from where I live? 50 miles maybe.
And it's the biggest employer in that area. 3,500 in Swindon, and
but all the peripheral stuff as well. There'll be a lot of other peripheral companies that will be supplying them and all that stuff.
Yeah,
that was going to be affected.
So they've said it's not because of Brexit, but I'll let the listeners decide how much Brexit has had on that, because I have my own opinion. I'd like to just say there is a small plus side to this less good Honda news, and that is that a couple of days ago I saw the Honda electric car in its.
It looks so good. Yeah, I've seen some shots of you with it.
I did. I sent you a couple of cheeky ones, didn't I? And let's put it like this: it's lovely, and it's quirky and it's interesting, and I feel like it's Honda getting back on form. And yes, it will be built in Japan, but it will be available in the UK very, very soon. So
that is fantastic. But also, it was more like. It isn't like the one we first saw, which you saw. Was that at Geneva or Frankfurt somewhere where you first saw the sort of prototype one?
Yeah, it was Frankfurt 2017 when it first came out, and we did the fully charged video walk round on it at Tokyo that year.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
They look really good, but then, but this one is a really interesting kind of combination of it. But what we should remember is when it goes out, because it's going out on a specific day, that episode, because it's under an embargo.
Strict
embargo. We shouldn't really be talking about it.
It's really another great John Peel band that has not heard so much these days, the Strict Embargo. They were New Romantics, but they came out of the other side of that. They're now diversifying. But needless to say, the 27th of February is the
27th.
Is the day when Fully Charged will have our video out on Honda's new electric production car, which was called the Urban EV concept. Who knows whether it's still called that? Actually, I do know whether it's still called that. I just can't tell you.
You can't tell us. Great.
No.
I don't know. But I mean, I think the important thing to mention about it is small. It's not a massive 3-ton SUV. It's a small urban city car of, I think, a really delightfully refreshing design. I mean, it's got some quirks, I can tell, which I'm sure you went into. It's got some interesting quirks, but it really is, it's the car that I want to see. It's like, in a way, like the VW ID. It's a smaller, cheaper car that far more people are going to be in a position to buy rather than
Yeah, it is. It's small, city kind of focused, but really, really good quality and full of excellent design. And like you say, it is. It's very charismatic.
Yeah,
And I for one am excited. And
oh, good! I'm really pleased to hear that. Yeah.
Let's welcome Honda into the EV fold with open arms. Yes, they're already in it in North America, and Japan, but they're not in Europe. So this is good. This is good.
Yeah,
a return to form, hopefully, but it's a bit sour after the announcement to close the British plant in 2022. I think it's going to be.
Right, I see. Right. Oh, so it's not like next week. It is in a few years' time, but it's still depressing. I mean, why don't they make those bloody cars in Swindon?
Oh, don't. Yeah. It would be the coolest. It would be the coolest.
Anyway, but. I mean, I think these are interesting. These are kind of two related stories. The Petro Canada is going to install coast-to-coast 200 kilowatt charging right across Canada, but it's a petrol company, Petro Canada. But I mean, and similarly, Shell is on a kind of spending binge at the moment. They're buying everything they can get their hands on.
They are on an eco investment.
Yeah, but they're buying GI Energy, and I had to who are a grid edge energy company, and I had to go, oh God, I don't know what grid edge I should, and I've heard it at conferences when people do that sort of, we're very excited about the grid edge, going forward. It's like corporate people who use the term going forward as opposed to in the future.
And so, is it like when instead of just phoning me, you're going to reach out to me?
You can reach out. We can reach out, because I'm happy when people in America are pumped and stoked. We've adopted that one.
Yes.
When they're excited about something, they get pumped and stoked. That's good. I quite like pumped and stoked.
There's images of foie gras with stoked for me.
Yeah, I've had a lot of reaching out from America over the years. It's not made me happy.
No, some of it's positive reaching out, some of it's negative.
It's very positive. It's all very positive. But the
grid edge. Can you explain in brief?
Grid edge. It's basically what we talk about. Other than including cars. So it's all the stuff. Like adoption of solar energy storage, microgrids, electric vehicles, and it's very much about the in a sense the control systems and the communication systems between those. So in a way, the software that starts to control the new energy technology space. So it is, you've got solar panels, you want it to charge the battery. When do you want it to charge the battery? This specific time when this happens and that happens, and that's down to software.
Yes.
And then if you've got vehicle to grid technology, so all those, it's not like centralized generating going down big power lines to cities through substations to your house. It's all the other bits that
it's more
exist
intelligent
around the edge, and and it's clearly a massive growth area, absolutely enormous. And Shell know that, so they bought New Motion, which was the big charging network in Europe, particularly Germany. And in one of those lovely charging networks that works.
Oh, they're the good ones.
We used them. We used them when we went when we did our Euro trip. No, one of them didn't. One of them we had a real trouble with. That was a New Motion charger in Belgium. Do you remember that funny restaurant we went to with the garage over the road?
I remember it well.
And I think it charged the Kona and it wouldn't charge. I can't remember how it worked. Oh, it charged Mark's Leaf, but it wouldn't. The CCS was one of those. It's one of those ones, and the other one by the sewer where we could smell the sewer.
Oh, I remember the one next to the sewer. That was very unpleasant.
And that would sort of charge for like 3 minutes and then just go poo and just stop.
That one made us cry. I remember that one.
Yeah, so in fact, Shell need to put some more money into New Motion. But generally, I have used New Motion chargers a lot all around the place, and they've generally been very good.
Yeah.
So they bought them. They bought grid developer Husk, about which I know zero. And so, so they're doing. They've published their energy transition report, detailing its intent to move in step with society toward a lower carbon future. Notice not zero carbon, lower carbon.
Low, at least,
which is better than like we're going to raise carbon. At least they're going in the right direction.
It's definitely that, and to remove it altogether, it may be too much at the moment for them.
It's too much,
maybe a bit much.
But likewise, Canada. I mean, that's amazing. The Canadian company putting on all these chargers. So these are 200 plus kilowatt chargers, right across from Vancouver on the west coast to east coast of Nova Scotia, which I had to look on a map to work out. That's like all of Canada.
That is all of Canada. And 200 kilowatts is pretty future-proof too.
Yeah, and they're upgradable to 350, so they're doing the right thing. But I want to read the little quote from Chris Smith, who is the executive vice president of Downstream and Suncor, which is the company, the petrochemical company. But I'm going to try and do it in my Canadian accent.
Oh, good luck with that.
Just in case some Canadians are listening, because they'll really appreciate this. They'll appreciate the skill.
Your finest Canadian. Go.
Yeah. Keeping Canadians moving is what we do, eh? We know the needs of our customers are evolving as we transition to a low-carbon future, which is why we're excited to expand our current offering to support this growing customer segment, eh? I just want to know if anyone wants to comment about that from Canada.
What, your impression
just give it a score. Release? My impression. Yeah, because I've completely ruined the press release, which is quite important. But I just want to get a score from 1 to 10 of how offensive that was.
Okay, I'm not even going to try Canadian. It's too difficult for me.
Well, it was what originally, when I was 30 plus years ago, when I was. First started performing in Red Dwarf, and we tried. Crichton was going to not be a posh English butler robot. That's all we knew. So I did Scandinavian. So he was meant to be Swedish.
Yeah,
and he was very safety conscious and had side impact balls and the airbags. He was
really
like that. Yeah, there was talk of that, and then Craig Charles just got really annoyed. He said, "That'll drive me mad, man. I can't stand that." And then I said, "Oh well, I've just been in Canada, so I'll do my Canadian accent," which is what Crichton ended up sounding like. Nothing like a Canadian accent at all. But
so anyway, it's a very well received American accent.
What I've been told, it's the American equivalent of Harry Enfield's character Tim Nice but Dim. So it's a posh American who thinks he's clever, but everyone really knows he's quite thick.
Oh gosh, really?
And I didn't. I mean, that was an American who told me that. It's kind of a mid-Atlantic Bostonian academic,
Thicky.
Snob, sort of snobby, fake intellectual, which is perfect for Crichton. I was very happy when they told me that.
I was going to say that's worryingly accurate. You've got it spot on.
Yeah, it was pure fluke.
That's probably why it's lasted so long. Little did you realise you'd be doing it for 3 decades.
No, absolutely no way. And it's entirely, the entire success of Red Dwarf was entirely down to Crichton's accent. I've always claimed that. I've never met anyone who agrees with me, but I claim that.
Take it and run.
Yeah, take it and run. But yeah, so that's I think what the basic gist of it is, what we're seeing is existing energy companies, I'm not going to say scrabbling, but certainly making great efforts to maintain their position, I suppose, as energy suppliers in a very rapidly changing landscape. So I think those are both. I
think it's a sort of almost like a polite gold rush, isn't it?
Yes.
It's
a discreet gold rush.
It's a discreet gold rush, and a good gold rush, from what I can tell, is because they're doing it because they've got to try and be part of whatever future we have.
Yeah.
So if they're going to sell half the amount of crude oil that they were,
they've got to find somewhere else.
Yeah, they've got to keep investors happy and all that jazz. So I'm interested to always hear about that.
Yeah, but then the next story, I was very pleased to hear about this because I've always loved the Renault Zoe, even though it's kind of been on the edge of the sort of edge of this will annoy the Renault Zoe Owners Club, and I mean no offence because they're very popular cars, but I think it's a brilliant little car.
I do,
and absolutely, and somehow it's kind of I guess it's just not had a lot of coverage in the last couple of years in the UK because there's other cars coming out and all that stuff. But I was so thrilled to hear this, that they're I guess Renault Zoe Type 2 or something is coming in September this year.
That's going to be brilliant.
With CCS charging, which is fantastic, with
100 kilowatt, up to 100 kilowatts of CCS.
Charging up to 100 kilowatts, with 95, a motor with 95 kilowatts, which is a big improvement, and 400 kilometres range, according to WLTP, which means 350 kilometres range, which is over 200 miles.
Well, that's good.
That is really good. Yeah.
I like the Zoe a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I do. I think it's a brilliant little car to drive. I really love it.
It is. I've always preferred the way it looked to the Leaf.
Yes. I'm afraid I have.
I remember driving the very early Zoe and always think it was a very kind of tasteful,
really simple
machine.
Inside, isn't it? Very straightforward and simple. It's not flashy at all.
Yeah.
And they've proved themselves very good. I mean, all the people I know who've got them always rave about them. They've used them, gone all over the place. They're great. And we should mention that story is from Electrive about that. Well, actually, they got it from L'Argus, the French portal L'Argus.
L'Argus.
L'Argus. Yeah.
Yes, which is nothing to do with that mail order catalogue. No, not a mail order. Where you get your short pencil and you put your cat number in, and then you get.
It's the French version. It's the French version.
Of Argos.
Philippe, where did you get your hanging basket kit? Oh, from L'Argus.
Yes, it's a well-known portal of news.
Yes,
as we all know. The Zoe, there's nearly 115,000 Zoes on the road worldwide. Which is going so.
No, they've done very well. I mean, you do see them a lot in France, and their sales. There was another story I haven't put in the running order, but there was another thing about how their sales are going up. So there was some reports, because when I went round the factory, I think it's called Lens outside Paris, the big huge Renault factory where they make loads of different Renaults.
Yeah.
But the actual production line where they built the Zoe was also, I think it was the Renault Captur.
Oh, the Captur,
they were making on the same, on the same line. And when we saw it, it was 1 in 7, I think. So there were 7 Capturs for every Zoe on the production line, and this story was saying it's now 1 in 2.
Really?
So there's 2 Capturs and a Zoe. So their production has gone up through the roof. Yeah, they're making more of them. But I just think it's great news because that refresh and the fact that if it tips it over 200 miles and it's got CCS. Because at the moment you can't charge a Zoe that fast. I think it's 40 kilowatts theoretically on that one plug.
Yeah.
And I always like the idea that there's one plug, like the Tesla. There's one socket and you shove it, and then the electricity flow depends on what the source is, but it's the same one thing rather than you got CHAdeMO and Type 2 or But CCS is going to become the obvious thing, isn't it?
I think so. I mean, because it means you don't have to do away with Type 2. You keep the Type 2 thing there already, and it just it seems to just be the most popular form in Europe. It kind of makes sense. And really, I don't care which plug ends up being the most popular. I'd just rather have less choice. It's the same with all of this stuff. You want more of a uniform decision with everything. There's enough upheaval and confusion,
disruption. You don't want to have to go and choose which plug to use.
No.
Yeah.
I tell you, I still pleasantly charged from a 3-pin the other day. I was going on a job for Fully Charged with Mark, the videographer,
right?
And we couldn't find a charger near Heathrow that we could leave the car at while we went away. We were going away for like 30 hours.
Yeah.
So I just snuck into the car park of a hotel where we were staying, and I just found a 3-pin plug on the wall.
Wow!
And I thought, and I plugged it in, and I was in a Jag I-Pace at the time that I had for that week, and it plugged in and went, "You're going to be fully charged in 27 hours."
Right, which is the right amount of time.
And I was like, ordinarily people would go, well, that's just a total waste of my time. What's going on? This is just pointless. I'm like, no, because I'm going away for 30 hours. Yeah. So what the hell? Give it a nice slow drink of energy.
And it did work, and it was full when you got back.
It totally worked. Fully charged on a 3-pin from almost empty. Yeah.
Wow. Brilliant.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
Now, that's the whole point. I think that's the hardest thing to communicate to people who've never driven an electric car. It's to remind them that for the vast majority of the time, doesn't matter who you are or what you do, if you own a car, you're not using it.
Yes.
It's between, and I think to spread over the widest, including, high pressure salesmen, it's between 85 and 90% of the time you own the car, you're not driving it.
Exactly.
So there is time to charge electric cars.
You can be a bit time
somewhere
savvy.
To plug it in. I mean, it's very yeah.
And I did before anybody asked, because I did actually tell the hotel that I had plugged it in, but I was very discreet with it. There was no trip hazards or anything like that.
Oh, very
but
good.
I do find myself a bit like Terminator when I drive into an underground car park. I'm scanning left and scanning right for all of any sockets on the wall. I don't know if anybody else does this.
Oh, I do all the time.
Do you?
Every car park. Yeah, no, even here, because that was one of the surprise car parks. I've made a little episode about when we drove the Model X up to, we drove into a car park where we knew there was superchargers, so I wasn't like looking for a charger. But as we went in, I went, oh my God, that's a solar canopy car park shading, very hot.
Yeah.
And big shades, all solar canopies, and then at the end was chargers, which were direct. You could see the wire directly coming from the solar, going through an inverter into the charger. Brilliant. And there was a sort of, a plaque describing this is 100% solar power for your car.
Brilliant.
So that is in a country with a minuscule amount of electric cars, but they are definitely. There's a lot of interest here in them. So
next time you go over there, I think you'll see some Rivians and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh God. I mean, it would sell like a Lamington cake on Anzac Day.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have any idea what you've just said, but that definitely that.
Yeah.
As soon as you got a poster child Ute out there that's electric or some kind of EV muscle.
Well, I mean, there are, because we met a guy. I went for a ride in an electric Beetle the other day, and that was a conversion beautifully done, very much like classic electric cars. So there's a guy in outside Mullumbimby with an electric Beetle. There is a group of people up in just north of Queensland. Now, I'm not going to be able to north of Brisbane, and I haven't got time to go and see them, but I've got contact with them. One of them is currently converting a classic Mark I Cortina. Using Tesla batteries, and because there's quite a lot of Teslas here, and they got Tesla batteries and the drive from a 100D, not a ludicrous, but a 100D motor. And that's going to be quick in a Mark I Cortina. It will be monstrously quick. But what's beautiful is the Cortina is in exquisite condition, because cars don't rust here in the same way that they do in the UK. They don't put salt on the roads, and particularly that age vehicle. It looks just like my dad's, because we used to have a Cortina back in the 60s.
Well, before you come back to England, could you do us a favour and have a sniff around, because of course they're all right-hand drive, so there's some beautifully preserved right-hand drive metal out there. It's like it's where British cars should go to retire.
Yeah. Well, you see old Land Rovers. I mean, Land Cruiser wiped the floor with Land Rovers. I mean, the Land Cruisers everywhere, but there are still brilliant ancient. They look so weird. They look so narrow. Old Mark I Land Rovers or whatever. The very early ones.
Series 1, Series 2,
Series 1, Series 1 and 2 Land Rovers, split windscreen, all that stuff. Where you had to almost put your arm around the windscreen to make the wiper work. All that kind of basic stuff. But they still keep going. People look after them, and there are. My head has turned a couple of times when someone hoons their Holden V8 Ute. With the real, and they put the exhaust pipes are the size of a 1950s dustbin, and it just sort of goes past, does that sound. And there's a man my age with a 3-foot long ponytail that gets out of it, and you just go, that's style, head to toe covered in tats.
Has he got a singlet?
A singlet and a 3-foot long plaited, very thin ponytail from his 90% bald head.
Cheeky.
the male ability to grow very long mullets and ponytails in Australia
is it unrivaled?
It deserves worldwide recognition. It deserves UN status. It's very special.
It's almost, is it the length of the moulay is always directly corresponds to the amount of piston horsepower?
I think so, but I must admit I have seen, because I couldn't help noticing a mullet. Because they're not, when I first came here 30 years ago, they were very common. They're much less common now. You don't see them as much. Because I did that back then in northern Queensland. I saw it was 4 generations, a 4-generation mullet family.
No, so 4-gen mullets.
Yeah, and it was all both genders and the children. So it was granddad and grandma, both mulleted heavily. Mum and dad mulleted to the nth degree, and then toddler with a mullet, and a baby in a pram. How they got the baby in the pram had a mullet?
No,
just think how they it was
a baby mullet.
Like, it had a full-on baby mullet. Yeah, short formal at the front, partying at the back.
So the lady mullet, I think, used to be called the fee mullet, or the the mull of Kintyre, because I know that Linda McCartney used to have one when she was in Wings.
They used to rock the mullet. Wings were mulleted to the max. They were mulleted Kintyre.
It's a pubic baseball cap. That's what it is. You know, you were just talking about seeing old preserved Land Rovers and things.
Yeah.
I was at the London Classic Car Show at the weekend.
Right,
and
I saw some pics, yeah.
Yeah, the company London Electric Cars, who convert classics into EVs, they have one that they're doing. Right. They're in the middle of it, a really nice old Land Rover. So that's just reminded me.
Right. Yeah, I know, because we have never done a show about them. We really should go and see them, because I know he did. Their first one was a Morris Minor, Morris 1000. Morris.
That's
1000.
right. It's a split window. Morris Minor.
Because that was my first car, was a Morris Minor van, and I loved it. It was great. It constantly fell to bits.
Did it?
But it was everything fell off it. Just an unbelievable amount of things dropped off and stopped working and fell out. It was literally, you'd be driving along and then you'd hear a sort of banging clang sound, and then you'd look in the rear view mirror and there was bits of metal rolling along the floor that used to be in your car.
It was that road.
Oh God, it was. I spent so much time rebuilding it. I was quite old when I got it, and both front wheels fell off when I was doing like 5. Yeah, the torsion bar suspension. The kingpins just failed. Once. It happened on one side once in Greenwich in London, and the wheel, I wasn't going fast. It wasn't like danger. I was doing like 3 miles an hour. It just went bang, just fell off, and the whole car went sideways. Had it towed into garage. They fixed it, and but it got its MOT, and about a month later, the other one fell off. So yeah,
what?
It was not the most, yeah.
So you're lucky to be alive, is what you're saying?
Well, I mean, both times. I don't know whether it wouldn't have happened when you were going fast, but both times I was going very slowly, and it was like you dab the brakes because you're pedestrian crossing or something, and when you dab the brakes, the car went down and stayed down. The bonnet kind of dropped and it didn't come back up because the suspension. And then you get out and the wheel is literally hanging sideways out the wheel arch. It's just completely given up. It's just sort of hanging on by the brake cable, it was so it was very, and everything went. The clutch went. The third gear fell out in bits. I rebuilt the gear. That's where I learnt to do that stuff. I used to wear a motorbike helmet when I was underneath it because I just constantly banged my head, no matter what position the car was in. And so that was the only way. It was like they designed special bits of angle iron underneath the Morris Minor just specifically to injure my forehead.
But you can look back fondly at this stuff, because I think it's good to have a car that's unreliable sometimes, because it taught you a lot.
Well, you learn a lot. I learned a lot about it, yeah.
I learn a lot from some of my old sheds,
yeah,
and I'm quite thankful for it, really.
Yeah, because also I learned if you're lying directly under the line of the engine, like with your feet out underneath the front, it's safely jacked up, it had supports, it wasn't going to fall down, and then you're undoing the sump bolt to drain the oil out of the sump.
Oh, you didn't?
That's not a good place to lie. Didn't go in my face, just went.
You just dropped the whole sump of engine oil on your chest.
And it was quite hot because the engine had been running before, and I went, I didn't work this out. I mean, I managed to sort of scoot to the side. I mean, a total disaster. And I had a tray. I was an absolute fluke. I had a tray to catch the oil in, which would have caught caught a quarter of it. So even that was
Oh,
stupid,
you hadn't worked out the capacity.
I hadn't quite worked out the capacity. And I also didn't have the tray. I didn't know the bolt would come out that easily. You're undoing it. You're going, I'll get the tray.
Yeah.
Sploosh! Out it comes, all over you, soaked in oil. Quite hot oil.
Yeah, it is. It stays hot for, well, at least you did it while it was hot. It's always good to drain it when it's hot.
It's good to do. Oh, that's what I was told.
It's true. It's true, because it's obviously less viscous.
We've gone so off topic.
We really have. We were going to talk about Jag I-Pace sales.
Well, the Jag I-Pace. I'm impressed. I can't help it. I'm impressed. I hope this is correct. But I mean, I know the number is correct, but I hope it's correct to be impressed that they've sold 7,904 I-Paces since launch, because it feels like it wasn't that long ago, the launch. So if they've shifted nearly 8,000 cars, I think that's quite good.
Yeah, I think
it's an expensive high-end car.
It is a high-end car. So yeah, it launched June 2018. And they've sold, let's say, 8,000 since then.
Yeah.
I think
the reason this was in Inside EVs, a great website, but this was the story was about how they'd only sold 1,000 I-Paces in January, which was less than they sold in December or something. And you go, well, it's January and people don't buy cars, and then you find out that every other make of every other car, sales were down in January.
Sales have been.
It's not really a story
because it's January anyway, like you just said. Yeah. But also it's January with Brexit or not happening in March.
You've mentioned the B word twice. You see, I'm really trying not to mention
sorry. Well, but that the reality of it is that people are holding on to cars a little longer because they're just trying to see what's going to happen. People
are holding on to everything a bit longer because they don't know what's. No, nobody knows what's going to happen. Do they?
No, I haven't got this confirmed from Jaguar themselves, and I will update it in the description if we hear differently. But I'm pretty sure that when the I-Pace started production in Austria, I think the maximum they could make a year was 15,000.
Right. In which case they're doing all right. They're selling everything they're making.
Yeah, because if you think so, June last year, and was this in sort of January or February?
Yeah, it was the end of Jan.
End of Jan.
Was,
So actually they could be on target. I'm pretty sure that last time I spoke to them, they were selling as many as they could make. In
right.
Ways.
Okay,
so,
that's good. Yeah. No, there's certainly a lot of interest in it.
Yeah, and I hope so. Because, like I said before, with the e-tron and the EQC Mercedes coming out, it actually doesn't seem as expensive as people originally thought. I don't think.
Yeah.
And weirdly, I pulled in to do a rapid charging one when I had it last week, and there was another one at the Ecotricity electric highway, and I sat in the car and did some work and was doing some emails, and the guy came back to his car and we got chatting, and he's a retired Jag engineer who actually helped to work on the car before he retired.
Wow.
And he's met you actually. He mentioned you. He said that he had to retire on health grounds, but he's built a passive house. And he's got a Jag, and they wouldn't give him a discount, I don't think. But he said I worked on this car right from the start, so I had a sort of passion and.
Isn't that fantastic? Wow.
I had an emotional investment in it, and he said I realised when I had to retire, I can't think of any other car I'd rather have. So he put an early order in, and he's got it.
He got one. Wow.
Yeah,
that's pretty tight. If they didn't give him a discount,
I don't think they gave him a discount because I think because it's one of those cars that they didn't have a problem shifting.
Right. Yes.
I think they were just being brutally honest, really. And he said actually I'll quite happily pay for it, going rate because I love it.
And I think it's worth then pointing out that you were an Ecotricity charger using CCS on 2 cars, and were they both working, both chargers?
They were both working. There were 4 bays. There were only 2 of us in them.
Right.
His was coming to the end of its charge when I rocked up, so he had about 20 minutes left.
Right. But that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
I think we should mention that when Ecotricity's CCS chargers work, we should mention it because I know they've had a lot of trouble. So that's a good sign.
Yeah, and I think I have to say I like Ecotricity's app. I think of all a lot of the apps, it's the easiest to just kind of decipher.
Yes.
So
you're right.
and I think that as we all know, the easier these things are, the less faffing, the better.
Yeah. I mean, I'd still prefer it if you could tap to pay, but they're all talking about doing that. I think they all know. Go up with your debit card and just, beep, that's all. Like we did on the Instavolt ones.
Exactly, the Instavolt ones are brilliant. Yeah, I really like those. I've seen a few more of those going up in Valentine gyms.
They're going up, yeah. Well, I mean, the company that builds them, this is so bizarre, and of course, have I arranged to go and see them? Yes. Can I actually go? I'm not sure. Is in Brisbane, in Australia.
Oh, really?
The original company that developed those particular chargers is based in Brisbane. Yeah, I mean, they're all over the world. They've got offices all over the world.
Yeah, I like them a lot.
They're really good. Yeah, and I'm trying to go and see them. It's just basically I'm spending too long eating beautiful seafood and walking along the beach.
Oh, well, you are kind of out there on a sabbatical, are you not? I thought
we're
the whole idea.
Sort of semi-sabbatical and also visiting family. So we've got a lot of family coming here this weekend, and we've done a lot of, which is great. It's lovely to see them all. When we're sort of catching up with everything, because Judy doesn't see, she doesn't see her mum very often. So
you're on the other side of the world, so you've got to make a bit of a thing about it. Admittedly.
Yeah. Oh, Lord. But then we should do... I want to just do this last story, because I'm just checking how long we've been going, because we've got to think about our listeners. Oh, my God, Johnny, we've done nearly an hour.
Oh, what? People are just going to hate us.
I mean, what we can do is we can cut all the stories about electric cars and just leave the stuff about mullets in.
Well, I mean, it's quite important, isn't it? Crucial,
yeah, it is.
Crucial aerodynamic hairdos.
But I think this is worth mentioning, because this is a story that came out of Reuters this week, which is President Macron. Who's he's incredibly popular in France. They all love him. I like him. I think he's great. But anyway,
he seems cool to me. But what do I know about politics?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of shenanigans going on in France. But he has committed France to investing 700 million euros, which is currently, as we record this, around £614 million. But
I bet it isn't.
But it might soon be €1 billion. Anyway, whatever. Over the next 5 years to boost European electric car battery industry. So it's very specifically to start manufacturing batteries in Europe. So it's in fact in Germany. It's a joint German and French project.
So to reduce its reliance on dominant Asian rivals.
Yeah, and quite interestingly, the French have put in 700 million. Wow, a lot. The Germans have put in $1 billion. So they're not mucking about.
The Germans
so it's quite a big investment.
Yeah, that's impressive. To support battery cell production to reduce.
But it is interesting, when you think about it, that like 20 years ago, and you'd see the European car manufacturing industry, and there may have been individual components that they sourced from Asia. I don't even know, but let's just say light fittings for the rear lights, or something like that. The rear light mounts might have been made in Taiwan or Japan or something, but now a vitally important component, absolutely central to the whole car, and 90% of the production is in Asia in some way. So they're going. This is a bit of a worry.
So they're saying that it should also shore up jobs at home that could be at risk from the shift away from combustion engines. So they're trying to smooth out that shift, that
transition. Because if you think across the whole of Europe, all the European car manufacturers, where they make engines, that employs a lot of people at the moment.
A huge
building all those combustion engines. Yeah, so if they're going to, I'll just read out his statement with a French accent, just because I've offended some Canadians. I might as well offend some French people. But this is what he said. In terms of sovereignty and independence, I think it is not good in the long run for our industry and the European industry to be 100% reliant on non-Europeans. I don't know how pointed that was towards Britain. So
I don't know what we are anymore, Tom.
Yeah, no, exactly. Who knows? So that's why, according to me, on batteries, we need a European wake-up call.
Oh, very good.
Vive la France.
Yeah. Vive le Macron.
Vive le Macron.
Well, there you go.
Right. What I love is I know I'll get a tweet which explains why Macron is the most specifically evil individual in the whole history of all world politics.
Oh, really? Oh, well.
Yeah, I don't know. They're bad to me. Somebody will be angry with him. But one last story before we go, because I'm very, very happy about this very quick last story. I don't know if you saw this
Well,
one.
I've got it written on my notes as lastly, Robert is going to be very happy in June.
Very happy in June. Well, this is what, because I was praying 4 years ago or 3 years ago, because my Tesla Model S lease runs out in June. And 3 years ago I said, oh, well, the Model 3 will be here by then. And I've booked a Model 3 through the leasing company. So there's one with my name on it, but, it's to lease. And I then went, like, earlier this year, I spoke to someone at Tesla. I said, do you think it'll be, the right-hand drive will be in Britain by June? And he didn't even answer. He did the sort of blowing air through his teeth as he walked away, shaking his head.
Yeah. Yeah.
So obviously no. Well, in fact, they just
did he hand you a piece of string and invite you to just snip it at any point
and work out how long it is,
and then work out the length of said string?
But there are now reports that the right-hand drive UK Tesla Model 3 delivers will start in June this year, which is just.
So it's almost like you planned it, Robert. Your Model S lease runs out in June. Right-hand drive Model 3s will start delivery in June. I bet. So you're still got your order open for that car.
Well, I mean, it's a lease. I think if I said to them, I don't want it, they're not going to struggle to find another person to lease it. I think that, so they're not stressed. But they've got me on the list. So I'm on the list. I think they've ordered. This is Drive Electric. They've ordered a huge. I don't want to say how many, but I know I was surprised at how many. I mean, a lot. Okay. And they do get them very, very quickly. I mean, it's who we get our Kona through. So
I was going to say, does this mean I can cut the body off your Kona and put an Austin Princess body on it? Because that's kind of
it would fit beautifully. Wouldn't
that's
it?
What
that'd be brilliant.
I'd actually quite like a 300-mile EV Princess. I'm sure I am the only person in the world who's thinking this at the moment.
Dream of doing it.
I would dig
Austin
that.
Princess.
Yeah, the Princess of Hearts. Oh, wouldn't it be nice?
Because it is that. I'll tell you, the two things that I absolutely could not see coming when I first started making fully charged and when I first got interested in electric vehicles, the two things that I had no clue, it just didn't occur to me. One, the one we're seeing a lot more of is the converting older cars, and I know you're going to be driving quite a special one, but we won't mention that.
Oh yes,
but that kind of I just didn't occur to me that anyone would do that. And the other one is electric flight, which is becoming a bigger and bigger. There's a lot of electric planes in Australia training. All the pilots are training in two-seater electric planes now. It's absolutely kind of normal. No one even talks about it. It's just it's a flight training plane. It's the obvious one to have. Sort of thing.
It makes perfect sense, and I think
quickly.
In fact, weirdly, on the Jonny Cab note, there's a guy that contacted me through Fully Charged who's unearthed a really old test vehicle. It might be by Lucas, which is some kind of strange 70s people carrier van. That was developed as an EV kind of urban transportation thing.
But
and
during the oil crisis, probably.
Yeah, and he's found it and he's bought it. Wow. And he wants to know if anyone wants to kind of buy it and resurrect it, because he doesn't quite know what he's dealing with. But it's awesome. It is brilliant.
Wow. Oh,
maybe I'll dig out a picture and show you. I might drag it to Fully Charged Live. Who knows?
Yeah, do.
It's very Jonny Cab spec, though.
Yeah. Well, we should do very quickly the fully charged live for those of you who don't know. But I don't want to be boring because some of you will know already. But it's on the. We're about to
I love
launch.
That. I don't want to be boring, but
no. I know. I'm trying not to be boring. But we're going to launch tickets very soon. In a couple of weeks, the tickets will be available. There's actually some very exciting ticketing opportunities because it's over 3 days. So anyway, there's all sorts of special stuff going on. Which is the 7th, 8th and 9th of June at Silverstone Motor Racing Circuit. It's going to be, now I accept, it's going to be massive and amazing because all the manufacturers have come along. Everyone's doing it now. There was a bit of the B word hesitancy, but I think everyone's going, look, we've kind of got to carry on living.
Everyone has to carry on living. Everyone needs to sell stuff to people. So.
Exactly. Yeah, so they're all going to be there. So it's going to be very exciting. Lots of test drives, really big lot of test drives, which you can pre-book, which is very exciting. But that will be all on the newly launched website, which I'm not going to say anything about because there's a lot of exciting stuff coming at the end of this month. There's that. What's the other thing? Oh, there's some other things I've got to thank people. Well, I'll mention it here because we've had a lot of people contact us because there are people all over the world who are doing translation corrections and translations for. I was going to call it subtitles, but it's not called that. Whatever those things are, where there's writing on the screen, fully charged.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So, but there is a sort of auto translating service that Google do, but people are refining it so that it's more accurate, which is amazing. And they're doing it off their own backs. It's really. So I sort of wanted to thank them, and we'll do a little thank you episode. Because I didn't really even know it was going on. It's only because people have got. So it's being translated in sort of Croatian and Czech and Polish.
That's
and
brilliant.
German. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, really, really.
I'd like to hear myself in Czech.
Oh well, no. This is just the writing underneath. But yeah, the Red Dwarf. I don't want to go on about Red Dwarf that much, but Red Dwarf is very popular in the Czech Republic, and it's dubbed into Czech and. Craig Charles has quite a high-pitched voice. The dubbing is.
Oh, but he loves that.
And it goes. And for whatever reason, they've decided Crichton has an incredibly deep bass voice. It's just amazing. And I can't do an impression of what Czech is. I don't know anything about the Czech language, but Crichton is sort of, like he's really deep.
And Craig Charles is
and then Craig comes in, as I talking here.
I wonder why. How bizarre.
I don't know.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, so, please subscribe to the Fully Charged podcast, which I know a lot of you have done already.
Yes.
Have you seen the I was going to say the views. You don't get views on podcasts, do you? You get
listening
ears.
Figures.
You get listeners. Yeah, but they're very good. I mean, we're really thrilled at how it's going, and we're going to do lots more, and there's all sorts of ideas for.
Quite surprised, actually. Thank you very much, everybody.
I really appreciate all your stuff, and it's good to know now people have understood that it's not just on iTunes, which it never was.
We're not just on iTunes, and no. And at some point in the near future, we'll be both in England when we record it, I think.
Yes, which would be good, wouldn't it? It was going to be easier. Yeah, because I'm about to go to bed, and you've just got up.
I've just had my first coffee of the day, and I'm going to be I'm putting the choke back in now, and I'm going to be up to full strength, ready for half-term children entertainment.
And a very exciting podcast coming soon about I didn't even really know. I kind of knew there was a lot of renewables installed here. I didn't realise that people from national grids, from the grid controls of all over the world, have come here to see what the Australians are doing, because they're way ahead in terms of renewables in certain states. South Australia in particular, but very soon Queensland.
Is that because of the efficiency of solar?
It's just so, God, it just makes so much sense. I mean, today has been absolutely cloudless sky from dawn till dusk of phenomenally strong sun, and every house around here has solar. I mean, it's really high penetration of rooftop solar. Makes so much sense. It just is.
I am quite jealous at that. I won't lie. I am quite jealous of that.
No, it is very lovely. I feel very privileged to have been married to an Australian for 30 years, even though sometimes she's a right pain in the neck.
Well, look, the next time I see you, I'm going to be older.
Oh my God!
I'm going to have I'm going to have a special birthday, which I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you how old I am.
I did know that you were having a special birthday, because next time unfortunately, that's fortunate. Unfortunately, next time you see me, I will also be older.
Oh, will you?
Because it's my birthday the day before I leave Australia. Yeah, so I'm having my birthday here.
Well, happy B-Day in advance.
I'm not. Yeah, but I'm not. It's not an important birthday. It's just another step closer.
They're all important, Robert. They're all important.
I don't think I'm going to be doing a lot of celebrating.
And if any of you listeners have got a birthday coming up, happy ruddy birthday to you too.
Happy birthday to you, very importantly.
Right. Yeah. Buy yourself something renewable. I bought myself a semi-recycled fabric jumper, and it's one of the most comfortable jumpers I've ever owned.
Wow.
Yeah, in fact,
I like the idea that it's semi-recycled. Oh, I see. Some of the material in it is recycled.
There's a percentage of recycled material, and it could be worthy of a fully charged feature in the future of these sorts of clothes. And bedding and it's pretty cool, especially when it's just genuinely very comfortable and nice.
Right, that helps. Yeah. Oh God.
Well,
very good.
I guess that's it, if you have been, thank you for
listening.
Yes. That was
got it
really
right.
oh yeah, but it didn't feel right because we got it right. You know what I mean? Oh, what a load of trollop.